Good evening, darlings, and welcome to another installment of Getting to Know Your Officers. I am Vane Palazzo. I am the guild leader for Final Fantasy XIV Rough Trade Gaming community. And with us, we have Mychael, who is one of our officers. Hi, Mychael.
Hello.
Hi. A couple questions that we've got right from basically the audience. If that's what we're going to call it, we're going to call it the audience? Sure.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll be looking on over to the side a lot, so that's the reason why I'm doing that, because I'm checking up on the other monitor what the questions are. You'll be able to see both of us on here. First, can you tell me more about yourself, how long you've been in the guild, and what you do here?
Okay. Let's see. I've been in the guild, maybe about 4 years. I don't. That sounds about right.
Yeah, that's about right, I think.
Yeah. I've probably been an escort and officer for about three of those.
Hmm.
Um, as for what I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You know, pretty much whatever's needed.
Work in the streets.
Yeah.
Right, right. Um, in the guild, you mentioned that you've been in this community for quite some time. What would you say is your greatest accomplishment?
My greatest accomplishment was probably clearing. Uh, uh, I think we cleared up through T12 while it was still relevant, and we just had to finish off T13 after Heaven's Word came out. But still, that was probably my biggest accomplishment.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
quite an accomplishment too, because Bahamut back then was really hard. So not bad at all. Um, so in terms of just getting to know you, what kind of movies and music do you like?
Here, movies. I kind of like a little bit of everything.
Hmm.
It's I still in love with Disney. Probably always will be.
Hmm.
Uh, any sort of musical movie. Um, outside of that, it's just kind of hit or miss.
Yeah.
I did get into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which surprised me because I was never big into comics or anything. But
Yeah, me
uh,
too. Yeah.
music-wise, I'll listen mostly to pop music, um, some good old classic rock, lots of Broadway show tunes.
Nice. Any favorite Broadway?
I think my favorite show is a little-known show, Once on This Island.
Hmm.
Familiar? It's kind of like a retelling of the Little Mermaid story, but
Yeah.
not under the sea.
Oh, nice.
Um,
So
for the
kind of like
most
how Wicked worked, but with Little Mermaid.
Yeah, kind of. Not actually the Little Mermaid story. It's like got the same themes and sort of
Hmm.
stuff behind it. Um, but yeah.
Awesome. Alrighty. In terms of your favorite, or no, let's go for it in this direction. What character in Final Fantasy, not just Final Fantasy 14, but any Final Fantasy, do you relate to the most, and why?
So for the character that I relate to the most, I would have to say Squall from Final Fantasy VIII.
Okay.
Growing up, I was very much a loner type of child. Didn't have a lot of friends,
Hmm.
but the ones that I did have, I knew that I could rely on and were very close, and they always helped me get through the toughest times in my life.
Yeah.
So I think that part of the character in that story really resonated with me.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I don't hear many people say Final Fantasy 8. That's actually a really cool comparison. I like that. Let's
Yeah.
see. Let's pull up a couple of the other questions that our folks have asked here.
Okay.
Um, what would you say is the best thing in terms of Final Fantasy 14? What do you like the most about Final Fantasy 14?
I think The thing that I like the most about Final Fantasy XIV is the social aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I've always loved the Final Fantasy series as a whole, but they've always been really singular games that you could share with friends and talk about it, but you're always playing by yourself.
Right.
Whereas Final Fantasy XIV gives you that same feeling, but you get to do it and meet people and have new experiences, and it's a much different experience with other people.
I agree. What would you say is the one thing that you hate the most about Final Fantasy 14?
I think the thing that I hate the most about the game is probably what I hate the most about the internet, and that's the negative aspects that uh, being anonymous comes
Right.
uh, with all the people that can be assholes and obnoxious. Uh, that brings it down a little bit, but the good still outweighs the bad for me. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You experience them every so often, but I mean, overall, a good community keeps things going, and you just stay out of the high end level areas and never go. Yeah, yeah. Um, so, in you said Final Fantasy VIII in terms of Squall. Is Final Fantasy VIII your favorite Final Fantasy game that's not 14?
yes, uh, definitely very much so. It always had to me the most interesting battle system
Mm-hmm.
with the draw system and the junctioning. Uh, it's a lot to get used to
Mm-hmm.
and can be very hard, but once you start understanding it, uh, it's absolutely amazing what you can do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the story has probably always been my favorite out of any Final Fantasy.
One of the things that I had a love-hate relationship with 8 was the Guardian Force system, where you had to push the buttons, as fast as humanly possible, and then stop, and then start back on off. Did you break any buttons when doing it?
I don't think I ever broke any buttons. Uh, it definitely made me think more than once about buying one of those third-party controllers from like GameStop that had the turbo button.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I don't think I ever broke anything.
Nice. Well done. Because that was tough to do. That was tough to do. Um. So I want to ask this question properly because um, the question was, what expansion do you want next? And I kind of want this to be a little bit more that timeless in terms of that. In
Right.
terms of the next expansion coming on out, which job do you want the most?
Ooh, that's a good question. I ooh, honestly, I would love for them to come up with an original job.
Really?
I think that's what I would like to see. It
Mm-hmm.
can borrow aspects from other jobs, but I would kind of like to see something a little bit more unique to 14.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a nice surprise uh, instead of people fighting over, when it was the fight between Blue Mage versus Red Mage, or is it a dancer, or is it a monk, or
Mm-hmm.
all of that. I'd love to see them try their own original stab at a job.
I agree. That would be really cool. That reminds me a lot of a video that I was watching just yesterday on Final Fantasy VI, where they said that Mog was not necessarily a dancer; he was a dancer geomancer, and that made me really think about that. Like, yeah, that makes sense because all of his everything that he did was based on elementals and the environments, even though it was just a dance. So I thought, yeah, I actually agree with you. It would be really cool to either combine jobs or try to get some sort of, something together that's unique in that way.
Yeah.
I like it. Um, let's see here. Question about the lore here. Um, Well, how many Final Fantasy games have you played?
Um, I I have played all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've played all of them. I've beaten most of them. I think the
Nice.
only ones I haven't beaten are three. I think three, and then the 13 series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of us have had conversations lately about Final Fantasy 13 and just how long it is. It's
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I bought all three of them and I quit. I can't. So I know.
I've tried it a few times, and then I always sell it back, and then I get it again, and I sell it back, and just like, no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
done.
Yeah, that's understandable. Um, so for anyone without playing the Final Fantasy games, this is one of the questions that was on there. What do you think would be the best way for players to learn about the lore if they've never played any Final Fantasy games?
The lore about 14 specifically.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at, if it's their very first Final Fantasy game and they don't really know um, anything about Final Fantasy, what's the best way for them to be able to learn a bit about it?
I mean, other than just playing the game and giving it a shot,
Hmm.
I would say, talk to people, ask questions.
Yeah.
Uh, everyone knows a little bit of something, and everyone's got their own unique takes on the lore.
Hmm.
So I think that's probably the best way.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really good, especially for people who are knowledgeable about the Final Fantasy games. The lore isn't always the same. The names are the same, but the lore's not always the same. Bahamut and Final Fantasy 1 is nothing like Bahamut of Final Fantasy 14. you know.
Right.
So, one was benevolent and the other one was well, you can get into it if you play it. Um, do you own any Final Fantasy merchandise or collectibles?
I do. I've got the statues from the um, Heaven's Ward and Stormblood uh, collector's editions.
Nice.
Um, and I think that's about it. I've got a crap ton of the strategy guides,
Mm-hmm.
just because I like collecting strategy guides for the art that's in them. Um,
Any
I
Moogle
think I
plushies? No
sorry,
Moogles?
no plushies.
Oh.
Uh, I do want to look into maybe getting some plushies.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they've just been very expensive.
Um, what would you say is a normal day for an officer in the guild?
For the most part, a normal day for the officer is pretty much a normal day as any other player.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we log in, we do our daily stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll chat in FC chat, see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
We'll help out the escorts, inviting new people in. Um, but then we'll spend a little bit of extra time maybe thinking about maybe some new events that we can bring to the community, or anything like that that can really help make the game a better place for everyone in the FC.
Right. Uh, in terms of that, would you say how many messages would you say that we go back and forth with per day with the officers and the escorts?
Infinity.
Infinity. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty much.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's all kinds of discussions and conversations about everything under the sun, things that could be and things that couldn't be and whatnot. Um, what do you think is of all the time that you've been an officer? What do you think is your favorite event that came out of any of our discussions?
Um, I think my favorite event has probably been the I think it was probably the very first Slap a Witch. Um, I those that event has just been so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it always stands out as just something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's probably been one of my favorites.
Nice. Nice. Let's see. What other questions do we have on this thing? Um, Have you ever met any of the guild players in real life?
I have not.
No, not yet.
No, I've not met any of the guild players. Um, I do have a funny story that apparently one of my coworkers plays the game that I didn't know and is on our server,
Oh,
uh, which was very, very weird to find out.
yeah.
But none of the guild members.
Okay. There's still time. There's a lot of time
Yeah.
for that. Um, let's see here. What would you say is your favorite Final Fantasy piece of music?
Um, this one, I don't know if I could pick one.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's a tie between Eyes on Me from 8,
Mm-hmm.
Answers from 14, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and The Hymn of the Faith from 10.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice. I like that. Hymns of the Faith was a really good song. It was a really
Yes.
good song.
Yeah.
It was echoing. It was very like um, you felt like you were in someplace else. Like it
Yes.
really transported you. Umatsu did a phenomenal job with that one.
Yeah. Definitely led to the tone of that game a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Oh, da, da, da. Let's see what other things. What kind of changes would you like to see uh, in the guild for 2018? It could be anything we've already discussed or anything that you like personally would love to see.
I would really love to see more people in the guild becoming raid ready
Mm-hmm.
and working on Savage level content.
Yeah,
Would be the thing that I would like to see the most.
because because I ran a raid group a while ago, and you ran a raid group. You're running Taintless right now.
Correct.
Yes. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who wants to raid?
The biggest advice I would give to someone is go out and just try it.
Yeah.
Uh, find once you've got your eye level in the right place, give it a shot. Definitely, there's a couple of groups in the FC that would be more than willing to take new people out and give it a shot.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think that's the biggest issue is getting over that hurdle of, am I really ready for this and getting over those nerves.
Right. Right. And Taintless managed to clear Omega Savage 1 and 2 within, what was that, the first week or two? It
Yeah, I
was,
think within the first 2 weeks.
yeah, yeah, that was very impressive. I was really happy about that.
Yeah.
Um, so, what about rotations? What would you say, what's the best way for people to learn how to do their rotations? Because I think that a lot of people in the game, there's no real system to really show people what their most optimal way of doing their job is.
Right. Um, I would say a combination of a bunch of things. One, don't really worry too much about your rotation until you hit levels 50, 60, and 70, respectively.
Right.
In those leveling gaps, your rotation doesn't really matter because you're going to be getting so many new things and they're coming so fast. You're going to really have to wait until you've got the whole tool set to put it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, ask for help. Ask people in the FC, hop online, Google, dare I say Reddit. Um, there's tons and tons of resources out there. Um, and, they're crazy ass people that'll sit there and they'll do the math out and they'll calculate everything. And the work's out there, it's done for you. You just have to find it.
Right, right, exactly. Um, for you, because I know that you were originally a black mage and you moved over into red mage, where did you personally learn how to do your rotations?
For me, everything that I learned came. I pretty much learned how to perfect the rotation from stuff that I read online.
Yeah.
Mostly stuff through Reddit, but I'm a very mathematical oriented person, so I will sit there and I will read all of that theory crafting stuff and actually follow along and see, all right, so it is best to throw my Thundercloud proc here.
Right.
Um, so I think that was the easiest way for me.
Right. Did you feel Red Mage was easier than Black Mage?
In some regards, yes. In some regards, no.
Mm-hmm.
I think Red Mage, I think, is a very easy class to pick up, but I'm finding it's a little bit harder and more nuanced to perfect.
That makes sense, especially considering that Red Mage can raise people and cure people, and that kind of stops the DPS. So that can be really challenging for raids if you're healing when you're supposed to be putting out more damage.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot to balance out with something like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. What other things? Um, okay, well, there's one question in here. What is your favorite polka song?
My favorite what?
Polka song.
Polka songs.
Yes.
I don't know that I know any polka songs.
Uh, love our guildmates, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so, in terms of the people who are just starting out and the people who are just trying to learn how to fit in with the guild, what is the best advice that you can give having been in the guild for about 4 years now?
I think the biggest thing is to not be afraid to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I remember when I first started, it seemed so incredibly daunting, that road to 50, that it seemed like you would never get there and the game was always throwing new stuff at you,
Mm-hmm.
but you just have to ask for help. There are
Yes.
512 people in our guild pretty much at all times.
Mm-hmm.
At least one of them is sitting there willing to help someone if you ask for help.
Yeah. Have you, based on your experiences, have you always found people to help when they're asked?
Pretty much. You might not get the help immediately,
Yeah.
uh, but as long as you put yourself out there, and we've got even more resources now than we ever have in the past,
Mm-hmm.
um, at some point someone will find some time to get to you.
Right, right. And it's really important to know, especially considering that a lot of the players that are out there, when you sign on, you've got this preconceived notion as to what you're going to do. You know, I'm going to go up and I'm going to take care of the beastmen. I'm going to do my trial. I'm going to do my alliance route, and then I'm going to sign off. But the best way of being able to connect with other people is to make that extra time to be able to help people out, especially when you've got even if you only set aside an extra half hour of your day just to be able to let somebody else be helped, then somebody else will help you.
Hmm.
So um, how because I know we've done this quite a few times before, especially with the Pay It Forward program. What did you feel about the Pay It Forward program, and how did it really help out other people?
I think it just gave people more of an awareness of the need to help. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times players will reach the end game and they'll be like, all right, well, what do I need to get done? This is, my tasks for the day. And they forget that in order to have other people to do that content with them, they need to have helped people get there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Pay It Forward program really gives people an opportunity to remember that and to go and sit down and think, all right, well, I've got some time. Let me, sit down and help some people. And it really does start that chain reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get helped, you're more likely to want to go help someone in return.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Um, so getting off of the Final Fantasy subjects and just into like just the personal world, uh,
Mhm.
what what is it that you love doing when you sign off of the game? You know, turn off all of the escort and officer chats and everything, and just go off and do your own. What do you love doing?
I love to read. That's
Yeah.
probably my number one hobby outside of Final Fantasy.
What do you like reading?
Mostly fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah. Any favorites?
I mean, there's the typicals, the Lord of the Rings, the Harry Potters. There's a bunch out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing in particular stands out. I find it very hard to play favorites.
Right. Right. Um, do you end up? What would you say is your favorite hobby aside from books? Do you have any other things that you really like doing in your spare time?
Um, Outside of that, it's just typical things. Watching TV, binging stuff on Netflix,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
standard kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And you're recently engaged, aren't you not?
Yes.
You are.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does he play the game?
He does not.
No. Not a gamer?
Not a, not a big not a big RPG player.
Gotcha. Gotcha. What kind of stuff does he play?
He plays more of like the first person shooter games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those out there.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's pretty much concludes everything. Is there anything just to leave people with about yourself or just about the guild that you'd want to end with for everybody watching?
Nothing so much about myself, but the guild in general. Once you're here, there's really something for everyone in the guild. And if you don't see something you want, don't be afraid to step up and start something. If you've got an idea for an event, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know. We can help you with whatever it is you need. You want to do it on your own? Go for it. Um, just get involved in whatever ways that you want. Because it's getting involved that keeps this guild alive.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much, Michael. And for everybody who's asking at home, how do you pronounce the last name of your character?
So I've never really put a whole lot of thought into it, um, but in my head I've always pronounced it Rhykkad.
Rykod? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael Rykod.